Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am so excited to be joined by Gareth Lewis today. Hey Gareth.
Hey Demi, thanks for having me on.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Just currently celebrating the release of my latest single, Things You Love the Most, and that's been going really well, so I'm super excited about that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so excited to hear more about your musical journey and dive into our topic for today, which is music and well being. But before we get into that, can you share with the listeners a little about yourself and how you got started in music?
Okay, so I'm a songwriter from Wales in the UK. I've been writing songs for a long time now, but I started as a guitarist mainly. Growing up, my dad was a guitar player. There was always guitars in the house. So around about the age of 10, I started taking an interest. My dad showed me a few chords. And then as I went into my teenage years, I got a guitar for myself. Remember one Christmas having a second-hand Fender Stratocaster copy. Um, and that was like a big deal, big turning point for me. And that's when I started really getting into the guitar and getting into music and bands more and more through my teenage years and through school. And then formed my first band in school and did my first gig in front of my school, my high school.
That's fantastic. So, how do you think that learning guitar translated into you growing as a songwriter?
Music was always, from a young age, I was always fascinated by music. I remember when I was very young, always sitting in front of my mum and dad's stereo and listening to their listening to their music, their LPs, their 7-inch singles of bands from the 60s and 70s. And it was an eclectic mix of music. Like I say, there was a lot of English and American 60s bands, also a lot of country music, a lot of rock music. So, and it always fascinated me and kind of resonated with me from a young age. And then the guitar, I think it was my dad was a big Eric Clapton fan, and I think through that I became a fan of Eric Clapton. And there's a film called Crossroads. I don't know if you've seen it. It was stars Ralph Macchio, and it's about a guy, a guitar player, who goes in search of a lost song by Robert Johnson, the blues pioneer. And that was a big turning point for me as well in terms of wanting to learn the guitar. And then through my teenage years, as I became more proficient and started getting into bands and playing in bands, and then listening to more and more music. And I'm a really big Beatles fan. And the Beatles always, their music, their songwriting, it always fascinated me. And as a guitarist, I would dissect their songs and look at their chords and their chord structures and things like that. And I was always amazed by their use of melody with different chords. And I think that's what leaned me into on the road to songwriting. Then give me that initial fascination. But then, as we talk about music and well-being, it was, I think it's always been a way of expressing my emotions. So especially songwriting kind of opened the door for me then into kind of express all these emotions that I had going on, and emotions I was finding difficult through my life and growing up. And I think that's what has led me into finding my voice as a writer then is my songs tend to be about the human condition and expressing those emotions that we find difficult or that we deal with every day. And what's good for me is when other people kind of listen and connect to those songs and find something or some comfort in what I've been writing about.
That's absolutely perfect. I think I as well really focus on emotion and communicating experiences that are personal to me but can also be universal for listeners. And I think the cool thing with music is that if you focus on the emotional core of the song, that is part of the human experience, that we all experience these emotions, then you can kind of develop songs from that and messages from that that will resonate with others. So I think that's a great transition into our quote for today. So would you read that?
Yeah. So our quote for today is, "You don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you." That's by Dan Millman.
Awesome. So why did you choose this quote?
Because I think that's a battle I've had all my life. Um, like I say, I've struggled with my mental health and well-being through my life, especially in my adult life. I've struggled with depression a lot, and anxiety, and it's really, as I've got older, it's been learning to master not letting your thoughts control you. We have thoughts every day, constantly, and especially if you're a creative person, you might experience this yourself. When you overthink and your mind's very, very active, um, and that can be overwhelming at times. So I think with experience and age, I've learned to not let the thoughts control me. Just because you having these thoughts in your head, doesn't make them real. And it's learning techniques and ways to kind of address that, and through meditation or exercise or whatever it is, whatever tools and techniques you use to kind of not let these thoughts take control. Sometimes they do, sometimes it leads into poor mental health, but it's always something I can come back from, and something I can um, get better with time. So that quote really kind of resonates for me, because I think for a lot of people it's you know life can be a battle of controlling those thoughts and not letting them take over.
That's perfect. I really like this quote as well, and it's worded so interestingly because I think that part of being human is having ups and downs, having good days and bad days, the great moments and the bad moments. That's just part of life. And so I think that getting to a place of having those thoughts, but not necessarily holding on to them and not believing negative self talk and all of these doubts and things that we tell ourselves that aren't necessarily true. I think sometimes in our minds we can make things out to be way worse than they are. And we can frame things in a way that isn't necessarily realistic because we're tricking ourselves into believing something for what it actually isn't. And so I love this quote as well. And I think I have definitely struggled with anxiety and overcoming self doubts as a songwriter because it's a very competitive industry and it's also a very creative industry. And what I found is that whenever I have these thoughts that are trying to control my view of myself in many ways, I find that it's hard to be creative because I feel like my hands are tied and I'm really restricted and I have all these doubts and I'm not able to feel inspired and create. And so I think as musicians and songwriters, artists, it's really difficult sometimes when these thoughts can get in the way.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I've been through that myself. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because I'm not a writer that writes. Some songwriters write every day, or they'll have set themselves a goal, of so many songs. But that's never the way I've done it. I've always written songs when I felt in the place to write them, or in the best place to write them. So and what often happens is, when I have been experiencing poor mental health, is I might go through a bad period for, say, a couple of months. And then, but eventually I come out of that and I start getting back on track. And when I start on that incline again and start to pick myself back up, I tend to find my creativity comes with that. And then all these emotions that I've been through tend to come out in my songs. So for me, music and songwriting has been a massive part of my recovery and my journey in terms of managing my mental health. I'll go through these periods, but then after it, I tend to have a lot of things to write about and express, and that helps me deal and process with all the emotions I've been experiencing.
Absolutely, I'm the exact same way, and I think that sometimes just from writing these songs, it's a total healing process because I don't see myself as a super open person in terms of speaking to other people about how I'm feeling. I tend to deal with things on my own a lot. And so I found that through songwriting, I'm able to pour out everything I need to, get my emotions out. And through writing these songs, I'm processing those things and then listening to the songs back is almost like reflecting my own thoughts and emotions back at me, and it's easier to understand them that way. And so I think I'm completely the same as you in terms of what songwriting does for so many of us. So, something else I wanted to hear you speak about is that you also do some work with a mental health charity. So, how does that connect with you as a songwriter and your beliefs?
I've been working in mental health alongside being a musician for quite a while now, probably over 10, 10, 15 years, something like that. Um, and I got into working for a mental health charity in Wales because of my passion to help other people who are experiencing mental health problems. It's something I can relate to, having my own experiences of poor mental health, and it's important to me the work that I do. And I have to feel like I'm making a difference then. So that's a really good fit for me in terms of my values. I've got a lot of experience in terms of what I've been through, so I've been able to put that into my work. And then the music alongside that what helps me express emotions that I've been through or other people I know have been through, writing about it. It all kinds of ties in with my kind of values and beliefs and helping people then. So helping people in my day job through the charity. But also I see my songs as kind of helping myself, but also um hopefully providing some kind of comfort and love for other people as well.
That's fantastic. I love how all of this ties into your brand. Like you have a very specific, solid brand, and I think that's fantastic because everything aligns. And I think just hearing you speak about your songwriting and your work with the charity, I can definitely tell that you're passionate about it and you genuinely care. And I think that that's fantastic because as a songwriter and being somebody who's in the public eye, and developing this brand for yourself, everything aligns so nicely. And so it gives you a very authentic brand, which is fantastic.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's taken me, well, I always say it's a life's work, and it's taken me a long time to get there and kind of align things. But you kind of go, all these things you experience and go through in your life. It's nice to use that and focus that, those experiences, and um, it's good to focus that into something positive, I think, and that's what I've tried to do with the work that I do, and the music, and kind of tie it all together. I was watching a reel actually by Rick Rubin, the producer. This week I was watching a reel, and he's talking about artists, musicians or any kind of artist really, about how you should, not worry about what anybody else thinks and make art for yourself first and foremost. You be the audience. And I think that's the kind of approach that I take with my music. I write it for myself first and foremost, and because I need to express these things, or it needs to align with who I am as a person. Um, and I think any kind of true art, then that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I'm the exact same way. Before I even considered releasing music, I wrote songs for myself. And I think holding on to that has made my songwriting journey a very healthy one because I'm not focusing on, I want to write this specific song to get this number of streams, or I want to write this song to pitch to this artist, and all of that. Like, I'm so focused on what I need to write for myself and what I'm passionate about writing, writing authentic messages in my songs. And I think when you start from that point of like genuine authenticity, everything else just comes into place because you're not pretending to be something you're not, and you're not just writing something for other people. And I found too, like, doing interviews and having to promote my music, if you write music from an authentic place, then you're going to feel very natural when you're speaking about things and you're not trying to sound super professional or paint something so perfectly. You're just being yourself. And I think in an industry that is so oversaturated, I think with so many songs, so many artists, the best way to stand out is to just be you because you're the only one who's like you.
100%, yeah. And I think because it is so easy to get caught up in what other people are doing, and the social media battle of streams and likes, and all this kind of stuff. It's I can see how people get caught up in it, but I think yeah, you've got to do what's right for you first and foremost, what you believe in, and that's all I've ever tried to do with my music. It's just try to be authentic with it, write songs that I believe in, with emotions that I want to express. Um, and that comes back to why I don't write every day. I just write when I feel, when I feel that creative spark, or like I need to write, or like I need to write something or do something. So yeah, I'm like I say though, I can see how easy it is to get caught up in that kind of industry, because it can be very competitive and all about the show sometimes.
For sure, absolutely. So now let's shift gears and chat a little about your music. So you have a new EP coming, which is One Good Day. Can you share a little about the overall inspiration behind this project?
Okay, so One Good Day is my second EP. I released my first EP in 2021 called Start the Hurricane. At the time, I'd written quite a lot of songs, so a lot of the songs on this EP are kind of left over from those sessions. Um, and I could, I could have put an album together really, but I wanted to spread things out and do it as a project, because all these songs kind of focus on the things that we've been talking about just now, on different emotions, human emotions, hope and those kind of universal emotions of love and grief and loss, and all these different things that we experience as human beings. Some personal issues I've been through myself. So the two EPs, I see them as a kind of a project, that kind of link together then, one after the other. So One Good Day features 5 tracks, which I'm very very proud of. That it's a bit more diverse. My first EP was kind of blues rock influenced, blues country rock. This one's a little bit more diverse. It's still got those influences in there, but there's a few other different feels as well. Um, and some songs. I think some of my best songwriting I've done. Um, I think I've released 3 singles so far, 2 of which have been playlisted on BBC Radio Wales. So that's been amazing, because I've had some great support from BBC Radio in Wales over the years, and the fact that they've got behind the songs on this new EP is brilliant. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting the EP out there in the new year now, around about February time, um, and probably be one more single to be dropped from that EP as well before release.
That's perfect. I really like how you said this project's more diverse. because I had a similar situation where my debut album, Dear Diary, is very contemporary pop, but my EP, It Is What It Is, I released in November, is super diverse with many different genre influences. And I just found that I had more fun writing it. I was like more free with the process. So, what was your experience with choosing to make your songs on this project more diverse? And also, how did you go about selecting the track list? Because you wrote a handful of songs. So what was that selection process for you like as well?
I think I tend to write quite diversely anyway, and I've got this issue with current modern music and streaming platforms where everything's got to fit into a box, and I struggle with that because I sometimes I don't want to. I have got blues country influences, but I don't want to write an album that sounds all the same, where the songs sound all the same from start to finish. I've never been like that. And that's not to criticize anybody who does that, by the way. It's just my, own personal writing style. So I write a lot of different things. I'll write rock songs, I'll write acoustic songs, I'll write ballads, I'll write angry songs. I think for this EP, I just wrote a lot, and without thinking of a particular style for them all or having them in a different a particular style, I just really picked what I thought were the strongest songs. So, like I say, there's different feels on this EP. There's some kind of angry rock edge songs. There's some subtle country songs. There's some pop songs. It's just a real mixed bag of everything that I do.
I love that. And I love how you chose the strongest songs. I think that's one of the most amazing qualities a songwriter can have, really sitting down and saying, these are the best songs. Because there are songwriters who can get attached to everything they write, and it's hard to choose and let things go. But the fact that you were able to choose your strongest work and put that into a project that's super diverse and showcases you and your styles and like your overall encompassing aspects of it as a songwriter. I think that's awesome because it really shows who you are. So I'm very excited to hear the entire EP. What do you think one of the biggest challenges you faced was with this whole project?
Yeah, so the biggest struggle with this EP was the fact that I was so busy with my day job. As I said before, I work for a mental health charity. Following the pandemic, that's been really busy in terms of increasing mental health problems and things like that. Um, and this year seems to be, or seem to have been, extra busy with work and a lot of stress, a lot of pressures. So it really was, the biggest thing was finding the time to release things properly and put the time and energy into it. I'd recorded the songs earlier in the year and they were ready to go. But then it was just about finding the right time and moment to release songs. So, which I managed to put a few singles out over the year, but it's probably taken me a lot longer than I'd originally planned.
Yeah, actually, like, I think that that's a really important thing to bring up because I think as independent musicians, I feel like sometimes we're expected to release, do this, that, like all the time. And people don't realize that we have other aspects of our lives. And sometimes things come up. Sometimes we don't get our music out as quickly as we want to, but that doesn't mean that we're not working really hard behind the scenes. So even though it took longer than you wanted, I think that you're going to have an incredible EP release and the timing's going to be right. It's not like you're rushing something just because you feel like you need to get it out. You're waiting for the right time, and I think that's really important. So, if listeners can take one thing away from the project, what do you hope that is?
Between the two EPs, then I think there's a strong message of hope and self belief and just keeping going in what you believe in and staying true to who you are. And I think we talked about at the beginning of this interview about life is about good times and bad times, together. But I think through the music I've put into these two EPs and the songs I've put into them, I think there's a strong core message of hope and self belief and just, working through those difficult times, staying true to yourself and just keep going. And if you've got something you want to do, and something you want to say, then nothing should stop you doing that, I think.
That's such an incredible message. I can't wait to hear the whole EP. Congrats on such an amazing, inspiring project. I have one more question for you, and that is for any songwriters listening who are just getting started or maybe hitting roadblocks along their own journeys, what advice would you give them?
Just to write from the heart, write about things you know about and things you feel a connection to. Don't worry about trying to sound like anyone or sound like another band. Just be yourself. Write from your heart, and don't give up. Even if you don't, if your songs are not what you think they should be at first, because mine weren't for a long time, and it took me a long time to find my voice as a writer, or to get to a place where I was happy with the stuff I was writing. So it does take, it's like anything. You put, the more effort and work you put in, the better results you get. So just stick at it, but always write from the heart, and a place of integrity then, and authenticity, I think.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gareth. This has been a fantastic chat. Can you share with everyone where they can find you on social media and check out your music?
Yes, so people can check out my music on Spotify, Gareth Lewis Music, and Apple Music, and Amazon, and all the usual streaming platforms. I'm on Instagram as Gareth Lewis Music. My website is Gareth Lewis Music. So if people just check out those links, they'll find more information, and lots of different songs from me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for joining me. It was an honor having you on the show. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Gareth. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.